So, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources issued warnings and advisories to residents about harmful algal blooms. What are they? How do they cause harm, and how can we mitigate and find solutions for them? Today, we have Sally Wenczel with us to tell us all about this. Sally, welcome to the Splash Life, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Diane. It's nice to meet you.
And nice to
Thank
meet
you
you
for
too.
thank you for having me.
Sure. Sally, you serve on the West Bloomfield's Environmental Commission and hold the position of treasurer and chair of the Lake Health Committee within West Bloomfield Lake Community Association. But today, you are with us as a part of the Homeowners Association and as a resident of the beautiful West Bloomfield. And you're going to talk to us about your concerns as a resident and as a part of the Homeowners Association, apart from your other positions as commissioner and treasurer of Lake Community Association in West Bloomfield. So, Sally, I just want to start off because a lot of people are not familiar with how harmful or even what are algal blooms. We see a lot of those signs put up in front of our lakes, and we still see people going into these lakes swimming because they are probably not well informed about what are algal blooms and how they are harmful to us and to our pets as well. So can you please provide us with just an overview of what are harmful algal blooms, what is cyanobacteria, and how harmful are they to our community, to our water bodies, and to us as human beings, and to our pets as well?
Yes, they are very worrying and harmful and an increasing problem in the state of Michigan and in our community, sadly. So that's a picture of our lake from a few years ago. And you can see it's different from typical or what you would consider healthy algae for a lake where it's a part of the food chain where ducks are eating it and fish are consuming it. This is toxic actual bacteria. It's called cyanobacteria. So it's referred to as blue-green algae, this neon green paint looking, it has a paint appearance. But it is a bacteria, cyanobacteria. And so some of the things that can happen if you are splashing around in this water are nausea, dizziness, eye irritation, vomiting, general discomfort from the smell if you're near it. But the greater problems, there are neurotoxins that can cause neurological damage. Peptide hepatotoxins cause serious liver damage, and dermatoxins that can cause skin irritations and respiratory issues. And these are from government websites. These are the real health hazards of this stuff. And pets drinking from it, there have been known cases where the pets actually die within hours of consuming the water.
So,
So, yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, that next sign, if you want to go back to that. So these signs have been erected in our neighborhood for the past 2 years. It might be 3. And the problem now is, EGLE, the Department of Michigan Department of Energy, Great Lakes, and Environment, you would call and you'd report an algae bloom. They would come out and test the water. Well, they don't even come out and test anymore. They just send Oakland County Health out to put up signs, and that's it. Just there's no real plan of action. We have warning signs, which is helpful for people at our little neighborhood park over there and the kids fishing to stay away from the water. But this is what you get.
Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, we do see these signs, and as a person living in community and living in Oakland County, I did see these signs, but I am always so intrigued to look in and Googling stuff. So this is how I found out how harmful they are. I would have never guessed how harmful they are. I was swimming in several lakes that there were warning signs. I would take my dog, and unfortunately, I did not know before that. So, Sally, before we go ahead and talk about the resolutions that you found and some of the research, can you tell us? You mentioned something about the government's accountability office report. Can we just preview an overview, or just like go an overview of what this report mentions and how harmful they are based on research, based on years and years of research?
Absolutely. Yes, this is from GAO.gov. This is the Government Accountability Office report from 2022. And really, the GAO is raising the alarm on government accountability for the response to harmful algae blooms. And I'm reading the conclusions from the report. The top 4 conclusions that the GAO report is highlighting is that governments are relying on reactive responses after, let's call them HABs. It's known as HABs, harmful algal blooms. And they're comprised of warnings and publicity about the HAB event, the signs. And the often used are applications of algicides, which copper sulfate is a real popular one that's used, but it's really not a solution. It's very short term, and it kills the algae cells on a massive scale, and it's known to cause fish kills, so this is just exacerbating the problem. It's a very antiquated treatment, and I know the neighborhood just to the south of me had a fish kill this summer after a copper sulfate treatment. And it happened to us in 2016, and we stopped using algicides for that reason. So lack of a national goal for hypoxia and HAB prevention. So the GAO is saying that what needs to happen is governments need to have less focus on data collection and gathering data and monitoring, and more focus on a plan and a solution. So we need to steer away from all the data and the monitoring. That's great. Scientists love data. They love writing their reports and making their charts. That's good. Good job. But we need to steer that focus towards a real plan and a real solution for people who are suffering from these HAB events. This is what the GAO is saying. Yeah.
Sorry. So Sally, what do you think is hindering going through these processes of finding resolution or starting finding resolutions and figuring out ways to resolve the issue of cyanobacteria or harmful, or HABs, as you said, harmful algal blooms, besides the copper sulfates and mitigating away or negating away from the copper sulfates and these very harmful chemicals? What are different solutions that you propose or science proposed?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. If you look at it, I like to look at things a lot as like a metaphor. It's very human-centric of me to think like this, but environment is like a metaphor for the human body. So we've been just herbiciding and dousing chemicals on these lakes for years, and it's building up in the sediment. There's heavy metals now in all the lake sediment, and it hasn't worked. And this is the tricky thing. So scientists are kind of baffled. This cyanobacteria is winning. It's winning until after 7 years I've been dealing with this. Since 2016 is when I joined my homeowners association and started to self-educate. I took the Michigan Lakes course from MSU, learned all about natural shorelines and what can we do to prevent the input of nutrients which are causing the HAB events. But I'm then learning that really it's the nutrients in the sediment that are feeding a continuous cycle of feeding these cyanobacteria. So you've got phosphorus and nitrogen heavy laden in the sediment that's creating this cycle of blooms. So we need to remove the nutrients from the sediment. Well, how do we do that? So I can get into the long version of this story if you want. So I met last year. I presented at the Michigan Inland Lakes Convention, and there were many speakers on harmful algal blooms and cyanobacteria, and many of them had the same questions. Like we can't beat this stuff. Here's what you can do to reduce nutrient input. Here's what you can do to build a rain garden, create a natural shoreline, until Dr. Wayne Carmichael spoke. He's a retired biologist from Wright State University, and he started saying things that were really resonating with me about organic ways to digest and remove this lake sediment using bioenzymes. And Global Waterworks presented along with him. And so this new technology, I can get into it if you want. Should I keep going?
Yeah, sure.
It's a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I just had a technical issue.
Okay. So Dr. Wayne Carmichael, I followed up with him after the Michigan Inland Lakes Convention and emailed him. He emailed me right back. We started a conversation, and he recommended to look into a company called SIS Bio. And they are doing what is called radar technology, which is bottom sediment removal by natural means, not mechanical. You can dredge a lake and suck it out mechanically with a huge machine, but that's also maybe going to last 10 years. It's just going to continue to fill up with sediment, and the nutrients are going to continue to thrive. The cyanobacteria is going to continue to thrive. But so what he's doing, he's got bottom sediment oxygenation. This is not aeration. This is what I'm trying to get across to Eagle and others, that this is not typical, I'll call it antiquated aeration that we know doesn't work. We shut off our aerators in 2020. And that was a recommendation from an Eagle biologist, saying, this is actually stirring up the sediment. It's creating more blooms. We shut our aeration off. We know it doesn't work. So this man has patented bottom sediment oxygenation paired with bioenzymes to digest the sediment. And he's removed, and this is real case studies I'm going to talk about right here. So Lake Peekskill in New York is one case study. So he takes bathymetric measurements of a lake. This is the total volume of the lake and the depths. And over 2 years, he was able to biodigest 2,700 truckloads, the equivalent of 2,700 truckloads of sediment from that lake, and taking it from having lake closures, entire lake closures, no one is allowed to use the lake because of cyanobacteria blooms, to zero. He took it to zero. So
that is definitely a wonderful discovery by Dr. Michael Carmichael. There's a lot online, and there's a lot of videos about how Dr. Michael also talked about this and the discoveries and all about his case studies, until I hope one day we get to convince EGLE to adopt Dr. Carmichael's case study and his discovery. But until then, Sally, and I'm sorry, this is a very interesting conversation. There's a lot going on here, but due to our very limited time, I'm going to ask you, I'm just going to round this up with the final question. Until we can adopt Dr. Carmichael's research and discovery, how can residents in our area help eliminate or try to kind of negate or reduce algal blooms in their lakes and water bodies?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So number one, don't fertilize your yard. And this is just period. Just say no. The lawn companies come knocking on your door. They leave the little flyers in your mailbox. Just say no. You got to go natural. All these additional nutrients that are going into our water bodies are wreaking havoc on our lakes and our watersheds. So don't fertilize your lawn. You can grow a nice natural lawn. There are ways to do it so it looks nice. Join your local watershed council. Get involved. West Bloomfield is part of 3 watersheds. We have Rouge River Watershed, Clinton River Watershed, and Huron River Watershed. 3 really powerful, wonderful organizations that are doing a lot to mitigate. So plant a rain garden in your yard at a downspout. So when we get these heavy rains, the topsoil is the first to go. That couple inches of topsoil is getting washed into the lakes because of these deluges, these heavy rains that we have, all those nutrients washing off. A forested area is going to absorb, a forested or vegetated area is going to absorb that rain instead of it speeding over your turf grass lawn or another surface, an impermeable surface. I made some more notes here. What else we can do? If you're living on a lake, have a natural shoreline. We put in about 4,000 square feet of shoreline, naturalized shoreline at our neighborhood park. These are just some of the steps we've taken to try to alleviate the problem. But our problem really is this lake is so eutrophied, which means aged. It's filled with sediment and nutrients that now we need to remove that sediment. We need to remove the nutrients that are in. So we've done a lot. We don't fertilize our common areas. I'm in charge of the maintenance in the neighborhood, and I tell the guys, we don't need fertilizer. We don't need herbicides. Well, you're going to have dandelions. I said, yes, we are. We're going to have dandelions, and that's fine because we want a healthy lake.
It's definitely better than
So,
harmful algae bloom. That's for sure. Sally, I want to thank you so much on behalf of our community for doing all the great job that you are doing, and for being a part of an effort to make our community better and to make our lakes safe to use and enjoy again. Sally, thank you again so much for all your insights and all your knowledge. I hope we can have you back on the show. I know it's a longer conversation and we have a lot more to cover, but thank you again for joining us on the Splash Live.
okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.